Alrighty. So we'll just give everyone a couple more seconds to join. We want to thank you for joining us. So the title of this webinar is Must Knows for Student Loans. If you've been following us, you know we have some other past webinars we've done for student loans, and we are back again today with DCWP and Summer for a fall 2025 update. Okay, so I will go ahead and introduce us, the speakers. My name is Estrella. I'm the Special Projects Coordinator with WorkWell NYC, housed in the Office of Labor Relations, and then I will pass it off to Haiti.
Hi, I'm Haiti Cabasura, the Director of Policy and Research with the Department of Consumer Worker Protection's Office of Financial Empowerment.
I'm
Great, and we'll have Anne.
Perfect. I'm Ann Keating. I'm on the member success team at Summer. We're going to be going into an explanation of what Summer is and what the benefit to New York City employees is.
All right, so first I'm going to tell you a little bit about WorkWell. WorkWell NYC is the worksite wellness program for City of New York employees, and we bring worksite wellness programming to you. We have several bucket areas in which we do programming, including Move More, which is about physical activity, Eat Well focuses on healthy eating, Take Action focuses on primary care and prevention, Be Well is about mental well-being and resilience. And then Project Build, this webinar is brought to you by Project Build, is our health equity focus. All right, so to get us rolling, let's start with an agenda. So first, we'll be introducing the new city benefit, and Anne's going to help us out with that. We're going to talk about the current state of public service loan forgiveness and the steps that you can take today. Then Heidi is going to discuss the financial empowerment centers and some other New York City resources, and then we will have our Q&A. We do ask that you use the Q&A function to ask your questions, not the chat. And so that way we'll be able to streamline your question and there's a better chance of it getting answered. And then we'll wrap up and have a closing. So I'm going to hand it off to Haiti to tell us about DCWP.
Thank you, and happy Tuesday, everyone. I'm so happy to be working with my OLR friends again on student loans, and even more excited to introduce you to our new employee benefits partner, Summer. So by way of introduction, the New York City Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, formerly the Department of Consumer Affairs, DCA, protects and enhances the daily economic lives of New Yorkers to create thriving communities. We look to pioneer the way that government can protect and enhance the lives of all players in the marketplace, including consumers, businesses, and workers, and how that work ultimately fosters stronger, more sustainable, and thriving communities. If you want to go back to the former slide, that would be great. The Office of Financial Empowerment's mission is to educate, empower, and protect New Yorkers with low income so they can build assets and make the most of their financial resources. You may have seen our subway ads for New York City free tax prep. We file 100,000 returns every year for free at 130 sites across the city. Tax season's always around the corner, and in our division. And we're going to speak a little bit later about our other signature program, the Financial Empowerment Centers. Just one note before we get started. We've done similar webinars in the past, as Estrella mentioned, and we encourage you to put questions in the chat. But to manage expectations, sometimes we get as many as 200 questions per webinar, and many are in a borrower's specific situation. So we are going to just go ahead and pick some of the most common areas to address in the chat and the Q&A afterwards. Next slide. Oh, sorry, the slide before. So earlier this year in the state of the city, the initiative with Summer was launched to help cities' workforce address an estimated 360 million in student loans that our city's workforce was carrying. This initiative is going to help all city employees through access to Summer. They're going to describe their online student loan debt portal. And one of the critical features is how to enroll easily in the student loan forgiveness programs that we are eligible for as city workers. And of course, our goal is to reduce the financial strain on city employees, improve recruitment and employee retention through these efforts. So if you're struggling with student loans, you are not alone. We're just going to pull some stats. Nearly 43 million borrowers owe more than 1.6 trillion in student loan debt. Almost 10 million borrowers could be in default in a few months. And only 38% of borrowers are in repayment and current on their student loans. So we know that this is a pervasive, acute distress that many New Yorkers are facing across the city. Next slide. So luckily we have a new support for our sibling agencies and workers. More than 300,000 employees are eligible for this employee benefit. We began the pilot in May of 2025, working with 5 agencies: ACS, NYCHA, DSS, DHS, and HRA. We concluded that pilot earlier in August last month. And starting this month and through February, we are doing the full citywide rollout, about 60,000 employees per month. If you have not already received one, the majority of agencies are scheduled for October and November to access the new benefit. And you will know it by receiving an email from your agency's leadership announcing that your agency can go ahead and start participating in the summer portal. And our pilot, I think, was so successful that one of the actions taken subsequently is that there is a new benefit that's widely available for all residents for access to summer. It's a slightly different platform and set of services. So we want our fellow employees to use the links and enrollment webpage that we are providing in this webinar so they can get all the services that summer offers. And with that, I've talked about summer enough. Let me hand it over to Anne.
Wonderful. Thank you for that introduction, Haiti. As I mentioned in the beginning, my name is Anne Keating. I'm on the member success team here at Summer. I've also got 2 of my coworkers on the call. They will be answering questions in the Q&A feature. So feel free to ask questions of Becca and Francis. Our team's role is to provide student loan support to borrowers like yourselves. And we're going to cover a lot of ground today, but the only notes that you need to take are how to get started by creating your summer account. So this first link that you see here, meetsummer.com/NYC, is going to be to get started with the New York City employee rollout. Like Haiti mentioned, not all agencies will have access yet. So if you're seeing a blocker trying to log in using your work email addresses, you can sign up with this other link, summer.nyc, or you can wait for your agency rollout email to arrive. Like I said, we're going to be taking questions during the webinar today, but if you have questions related to your specific situation, the best way to get a clear answer on those is going to be by creating a summer account and emailing our team. That way we can give you more specific next steps. So let's give a little bit more background information. What is Summer and how can we help? Our company mission is to improve student loan borrowers' financial health by reducing their student debt. And we do this by helping to simplify the student loan repayment process and maximizing savings for all borrowers. We help borrowers no matter their loan balance, income, or credit score. And we do this by taking a really holistic approach. So we're starting off by checking your eligibility for existing student loan relief programs. We're helping you compare all of those options. And then once we've determined the best path forward, we're helping you sign and submit all of the paperwork online. Always important to acknowledge what we can't do. So Summer is not a student loan servicer. Your loans will remain with your current servicer. You won't start making your monthly payment to Summer or anything like that. We also are not able to change or override any federal or state loan policies. So we are working within the system as it's set up. And lastly, we're not able to provide any legal support. So if you ended up deciding that you wanted to take some sort of legal action against your loan servicer or the Department of Education, you would want to seek outside legal counsel for that. This is what most of you are probably here for, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. We're going to dive into an overview of the program and then some of the specific details and next steps you can take. So to start off, if you're not familiar, PSLF is the best deal out there. If you are working full-time in public service and making payments on your loans for 10 years, once you've completed those, you can have the rest of your balance forgiven tax-free. The tough part of that is that this program has a notoriously high rejection rate. Even after some recent federal expansions, this rejection rate is still over 90%. And the reason for that is because the requirements are not as simple as they sound. Like with most federal or government programs, there are a lot of details to sift through, checkboxes to make sure you're fulfilling, I's to dot, T's to cross. And that's where Summer comes in as PSLF experts to help you make sure you are fully set and working towards this goal of forgiveness. So let's break down some of these requirements. These are the core requirements. We'll go into them in a bit more specific detail, but you must have direct or direct consolidation loans, be enrolled in an income-driven repayment or IDR plan, and work 30 or more hours per week at a qualifying organization. So we'll start with the most straightforward, the employment piece. Government organizations such as the City of New York are a qualifying employer. So if you work full-time, which this program defines as 30 or more hours per week, you are already fulfilling that employment piece. Next up is the loan type. So like I mentioned, you must have what are called direct or direct consolidation loans. And these are a specific type of federal student loans. If you have older loans because you went to school quite a bit ago, you might have FEL or Perkins loans, or if you're a parent that took out loans for your child's education, you might have Parent Plus loans. All of those loans are not eligible for this program as is, and they require an extra step of consolidating. So this is another area where Summer can help. We can help identify if that's a step that you need to take, and if so, we'll walk you through that application process. And then the last main requirement is going to be the repayment piece. So you must be on an income-driven repayment plan. We'll dive into a little more detail on that next. And your loan must be in good standing. So this means you must be in repayment, not in default, and actively like in good standing on your loan. So income-driven repayment, when we use that term, it's an umbrella term for a set of repayment plan options. And so what all of these plans have in common is that they're basing your monthly payment off of your income, your family size, where you live, rather than just your loan balance. So for a lot of borrowers, we see that switching to an income-driven repayment plan versus just what you need to pay your full loan off in a certain amount of time really helps make their monthly payment more affordable. Here we have four examples of the four repayment plans that fall under this umbrella. Each one is slightly different. They have their own set of eligibility requirements and calculations. So the best plan for one person is not necessarily the best for someone else. And this is another area where Summer helps you, right? So we will look at your eligibility information, we'll help determine what your payment would be on all of these plans and select the one that's the best fit for you so that your payment can be as affordable as possible while you're working towards this goal of PSLF. So we've gone over the requirements. How do you actually get forgiveness? There's a good bit of paperwork involved. So you're going to have to turn in an employment certification form for each public service employer you've had since you started work, since you've been making payments on your loans, or as far back as 2007. That's when the PSLF program was created. So it's the earliest employment that you can receive credit for. You'll need to make 10 years, more specifically 120 months, of payments that meet all of the requirements we've discussed. And importantly, you'll need to stay enrolled in the in an IDR plan. These plans do require annual recertification in order to stay enrolled and working towards PSLF. Now, it feels like it's impossible to look at the news without hearing something about student loans, so we're going to go over a few of the key updates that are happening now. First is that student loan collections are resuming. So really important after the COVID student loan payment pause and the on-ramp to repayment. If you have not been making payments, loans are beginning to go into default again. So it's really important to get on an affordable plan for you, so that you are not going into default and having, the trickle down effects of that. If you are receiving collection notices, it's really important that you address it head on and don't ignore it, so that you can avoid having your wages garnished. If you have already defaulted on your loans, important to know your exit options. Loan rehabilitation and consolidation are two popular options, and the best fit depends on what your overall goals are. This is a scenario you find yourself in, again, reach out to our team and we can provide some more information about those options. And then lastly, you'll want to make sure that you're being proactive during this time and keeping your contact information updated on your studentaid.gov account, as well as any of your servicer accounts. That way, if they're communicating to you about payments resuming, getting close to default, anything like that, you're actually receiving those communications and can take the appropriate action. And then the SAVE plan, I know I saw a comment about this in the chat. The SAVE plan is an income-driven repayment plan that was introduced during the Biden administration, and has since been undergoing legal challenges. At this time, there are no new enrollments allowed for the SAVE plan. Those that are already enrolled in the SAVE plan have been placed on a forbearance. For a while, there was no interest accruing, but interest has resumed as of August 2025. And importantly, none of the time spent in this SAVE forbearance is counting towards public service loan forgiveness. So if that's your end goal, is getting forgiveness through PSLF, it's important to consider exploring some other IDR options, so that you can start making progress towards PSLF again. And then some other IDR plan changes coming on the horizon. So right now, eligibility for the income-based repayment, IBR plan, has been expanded. The income contingent repayment and pay-as-you-earn plans are being fully phased out by 2028. And a new plan called the RAP plan is being introduced in July of 2026. So just some things to be aware of. But again, our team is monitoring these updates. We're integrating it into the advice that we're giving in summer. And so if you have questions about how this impacts you personally, summer is the place to turn to get those answers. Now, we've covered a lot of background, covered the programs, covered some of the news topics. Let's dive a little bit into what Summer's tools are and what your journey is going to look like once you create your Summer account. So you'll start off like you do making most online accounts by giving us some basic information about yourself. And then we're going to ask for some more background about you and your loans. So this is going to be questions about your education, if you're able to make payments right now, what types of loans you have. And we're going to use this information to run through some of these eligibility reviews. So we're going to see which programs you might be a good fit for, if you can lower payments, if you qualify for PSLF, and then we're going to give you personalized recommendations of what action items you can take. So you can see here, this user can lower their payment by enrolling in IDR and certify their employment for PSLF. You can think of Summer as being a bit of a student loan hub. You'll be able to view your student loan information, your program eligibility, and then see any next steps that you need to take in order to actually cross the finish line on these programs. We talked about submitting an employment certification for each of the public service employers that you've had. And Summer has introduced a fully digitized way to submit this documentation. You'll be able to monitor your progress online. So you'll be able to see the date that you signed, your employer signed, when it was sent to FSA for processing, and always be able to reference any next steps that you have to take. So when you get started by going through this process, you'll first complete your portion of the certification form. It's going to be basic information, your name, address, date of birth, things like that. And then you'll enter an HR contact. If you're having a hard time figuring out who your HR contact is, we've actually built a help tool with the City of New York, so that you can input some of your agency information, and then it will direct you to the best email address to have this completed. So you can be sure it's going to the right place, and the right person to complete it. Once you've done that, we'll notify your employer that it's time to sign your document. They'll be able to open the application, complete the employer portion, sign it and certify it online instantly. Once they've done this, it's going to come back to the member success team here at Summer, and we're going to be checking for all of those little things that could cause a form to be rejected. So again, we're looking for those dotted I's, crossed T's. We see a lot of these applications, and we're going through it with a fine-tooth comb to see anything that could hurt your application. And then it can be kind of a long process, right? If you're new to public service, it takes 10 years to get to forgiveness through PSLF. So we are here with you on that journey. We'll remind you when it's time to recertify your employment or your income for your IDR plan so that you're staying on track for forgiveness. And then we started off by talking about that really scary 90% rejection number. So I wanted to share two stories of New York State employees that have used Summer to get PSLF and actually receive forgiveness on their loans. Always helpful to hear from someone in a similar situation to you, see this become a reality, and know that it could be on your horizon.
Thanks, Anne, for that. Going to talk a little bit about the financial empowerment centers, and I also noticed a question in the chat asking how to distinguish it from Summer. Next slide. So we have DCWP has 30 sites across the city in which an individual, employees, or residents can go and receive free one-on-one professional financial counseling and coaching. We've included the information to make an appointment. You can either visit nyc.gov, talk money, or call 311 and say financial counseling. These locations are across all the boroughs. There are multiple languages that the financial counselor speaks. So if you are an individual who feels more comfortable speaking, English is not your primary language, the financial empowerment centers can help you navigate through a number of financial issues, including student loans to some extent. Next slide. So the financial empowerment centers can do two things. We do have counselors that can speak that are also experts in managing the student loan repayment process, finding the right IDR. But we can also do things that are more about college affordability. So we can review financial aid letters, help you create budgets if there are members of your household who are going to college or anticipating going in a few years. And there are some loan discharge options which our financial counselors can help. You understand if perhaps you have a disability or you went to a school that's on a list in which you can get a refund back. So those are some of the ways to distinguish between the financial empowerment centers and Summer. And of course, Summer is an online platform. So that's in the city's workforce, we have a high proportion of digitally proficient individuals, but that's not an option for everyone. And so that's another distinguishing factor with the centers. But in addition to that, managing student loans is, of course, about there's an aspect of it which is about actually managing the payments themselves. And what a financial empowerment center or financial counselor can do is really talk about student loans in the context of all the other financial decisions that you're making. So you might be managing medical debt, a tax garnishment, credit cards. You might be trying to make money by finding ways to leverage credit in order to improve paying down some of these debts. You are might be thinking about how to use your savings to pay for it, or how to find uh, things in your budget that might open up a little bit amount as you resume making payments or you're managing payments. And of course, we talk about financial products, bank accounts, short-term, long-term savings, asset building vehicles as well. And so there's a lot of things that a financial counselor can do that can really help support the student loan payment process overall. So it's a good secondary support in this. And the last tip, as you're thinking about these payments, I just wanted to pull forward a few tips that I got from our programs team. Thinking about your budget, how to update it. Things have changed even in the course of 2025. So you should constantly be evaluating and reassessing the expenses you're making and the income that's coming in. You can do it on a quarterly basis, annual basis, whatever it is. Having those conversations with both yourself and your family members is incredibly important in mapping out goals and thinking about what action plans you have. Again, prioritizing your debt management plan. So just really thinking about your portfolio of debts, paying auto loans back, if you have a mortgage, all of those things. Really, student loans sits within the context of that. I know everyone thinks constantly about money leaks. So really the important takeaway here is just really starting with tracking where your money is going. I think not so much focusing on like identifying what to cut back, but just having the information you need over the course of a month, over the course of the holiday season to kind of anticipate where your expenses are and where you might be able in the future to cut back a little bit and thinking about that action plan. Okay, I know that there are a lot of questions, and so please keep using the question and answer field to do that or the webinar chat. Just want to address one thing. We are in the middle of unrolling out the summer to all the agencies. The vast majority of agencies either is receiving communication this week or tomorrow announcing they're in the October or they're being scheduled for November. So this benefit, if you are blocked right now because your agency isn't a part of it, it's really ideal for you to wait for your agency uh, to roll into the initiative. Summer is working very closely with the agencies, your human resources teams to do the wonderful kind of seamless enrollment processes that they are able technologically to do. So if you can wait for that initial email from your agency, that would be great. We are working with each agency to make sure that the enrollment process with your work email is going through well and that the enrollment steps are just going off without a hitch.
I saw a question in the chat about if you've already started the PSLF process and already have a good number of payments approved, will transferring to summer impact that progress? And the clear answer is no. So it's important to view summer as a way to assist you with these federal programs. The source of truth and the person granting PSLF forgiveness is always going to be federal student aid, the Department of Education. We're here to support you in that process, answer any questions that you have, and help you get through that paperwork of certifying your current employment at New York City so that you can cross that finish line.
I'm just going to chime in here. The recording for this meeting will be sent out today to all registrants.
Also seeing a request for maybe in-person or more specific support that's not online. New York City employees do have access to scheduling phone consultations with Summer's member success team. So once you've created your account, you can navigate to your support tab and pick an appointment time that works well for you. Some more questions coming through the chat. So some questions about specific agency eligibility and some of the conversation that's been happening in the news. Right now, there have not been any changes to PSLF employment requirements. So if you work for a qualifying organization like the City of New York, that is what your PSLF employment eligibility is tied to, not what the function of your day-to-day job is. But really, really great question.
I see a question on accessing summer for members of your household that member is not a city employee. Um, your adult child, can access the summer benefit as a New York City resident, and that is coming. Right now, it's being unrolled out. There'll be more communications when that starts robustly at the end of the fall. We are trying to focus on getting the employees unrolled initially, but happily, this wonderful service will be widely available across New York City soon. In addition to that, one of the things besides PSLF are two features about summer that we always like to lift up. Number one, if you have private student loans, summer has a number of information and kind of walking you through some of the refinancing options. The vast majority of loans are federal government ones, but we know in New York City, especially, a significant portion of borrowers have private student loans or mixed between the two. And the second piece, and the one that we're really building out for all of New York City, is a number of college planning tools, calculators, financial literacy one-pagers that are really helpful, again, in the process for households.
I'm seeing some questions in the Q&A as well about the SAVE plan. So I wanted to just revisit that topic. If you are currently enrolled in the SAVE plan, your loans have likely been or should have been placed in a forbearance. While they are in that status, you are not making progress towards public service loan forgiveness. So like I said, if that is your primary goal, is getting to PSLF as quickly as possible, you'll want to use summer to explore some of those other income-driven repayment plans that are available so that you can be on track to do so. Also seeing a few mentions of what's called the buyback program. This is a bit of a more complicated program that allows you to kind of like repurchase past months that you're not getting credit for. This can be an option for some borrowers, but it's really important to note that it's not available until repurchasing puts you at the point of forgiveness. So until you've already completed all 120 months of your qualifying employment, and you just need to check a few more payment boxes. If you are thinking you might fall into that category, thinking about the buyback program, we do have a few blog posts about it on Summer's website. So we can get some of those in the chat, and then you can also email our team and we can provide them to you there as well.
I feel like Fran if you wanted to add anything more to the buyback, I noticed that you had signaled that you wanted to answer the question as well.
No, that's great. Anne covered it. Thanks. But I did just drop the blog post Anne was referring to in the chat if folks want to take a look.
And Fran, if I could direct to you the question about where to find old certifications, and you see it, you're typing an answer, so it's just easy enough to.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of where you can see completed old certifications, unless you have that on file, so maybe your employer sent it to you as a PDF or you have a hard copy, you're not going to be able to find that a copy of that anywhere, not even on the FSA website. However, the FSA website will have the record of what employers are already counting towards your PSLF progress. So if you see that employer listed and the time period you worked there listed, then that's great. That means that you don't need to worry about recertifying that employer and providing us that certification again.
Okay, great. We will make our way through a few more questions and then we will hear from Workwell at the end.
I can jump in on the question of someone had asked if they leave New York City service to work for New York State, can I continue payments and still qualify for PSLF? So government employers are qualifying employers for PSLF. So each payment that you make under city and state will qualify you towards the 120. And I think as Anne mentioned also, like whether it could also be 501c3s or the military, all are employers that as long as you're paying under the right IDR plan, you will continue to make it to 120.
Great. I'm also seeing some questions about kind of time frame and how this works. So one about the 10 years and if they need to be completed continuously. They do not. So the specific requirement for forgiveness is that you have to have 120 months. If you do that consecutively, it's 10 years, but it can be broken up. Like Katie was just talking about different types of qualifying employers. If you had a stint in the private sector and then went back to public service, you'd be able to pick up where you left off. Similarly, if you had time where you hadn't been able to make a payment, you can just kind of pick up where you left off prior to that and skip those few months. And then along with that, I saw a question about retirement. So PSLF specifically, you do need to apply prior to retiring because they have that employment piece. So you need to be actively employed at the point of forgiveness. If you are getting ready to retire, if you're going to retire before hitting PSLF forgiveness, you can still enroll in an income-driven repayment plan. Especially important if your income is going to be decreasing once you are retired, you can use that to get a more affordable payment if you do still have student loans. And for loan types, both undergraduate and graduate loans can benefit from the PSLF program.
I just wanted to Workwell had tagged a question that they wanted us to answer. Do you have any suggestions about loan forgiveness to someone who has not had 10 years of service yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So great time to get started. We generally recommend certifying your employment about once a year. That's because it's just easier to catch any of these small qualifying requirements sooner rather than later. We don't want to wait the full 10 years to apply for the program just to discover that you had a loan type that needed to be consolidated or you weren't on the right repayment plan. So I say definitely go ahead and get started now. What you'll see is that your what's called your qualifying payment count will be generated after they review your employment certification form. So this is basically an indication of where you're at in the process. They'll tell you exactly how many months of those 120 that you need you've already completed. And then you can see exactly where you stand, what your forgiveness date would be if you continued making payments straight through. Also seeing quite a bit of questions about spousal access, other family members, like Haiti mentioned earlier. If they are New York City residents, they can sign up in that way.
I'll just mention the question about PSLF and its longevity. Public service loan forgiveness is an act of Congress. It was created by Congress, and so we are currently operating in a world in which it is a viable option, one of the most important loan forgiveness options out there. And if anything changes, which we don't currently anticipate, we are encouraging everyone to enroll and get as far along in the process as possible.
And on that really quickly, I'm seeing also some questions about when people can expect to be able to enroll fully. I know some agencies can expect it to be this week. And so if you are currently unable, please check back within the next few days. Is that correct?
That's right. And then the vast remaining agencies are November. I've seen a few questions on DOE. The size of DOE, 147,000 strong, does kind of exceed the 60,000 cap. So we are working with DOE to enroll them starting in December.
Great. I'm seeing there's also a question, what if I return to school? Would I still have to make payments to qualify?
Yeah, so if you're returning to school, if you go back half-time or more status, you'll see that your existing loans should be placed in what's called an in-school deferment, which means while you're enrolled half-time status, you're not required to make payments on your loans. If you are continuing to work full-time and you want to keep making PSLF progress on your existing loans, you can contact your servicer to opt out of that so that you are still in repayment, making progress on your existing loans. And then anytime you have either a break in your education or you returned for another degree, anything like that, each of your loans is considered to be on its own timeline towards PSLF forgiveness. So what you'll see is that maybe undergraduate loans that have been in repayment for a few years longer will reach forgiveness before your graduate school loans, but you can receive forgiveness on multiple loans once they each hit that eligibility requirement.
Okay, I think we have time for a couple more questions, and then we will poll the audience for a temperature check. And,
I see a
if
question.
you, go ahead.
Sorry. I see a question about taxes and the taxes that might be associated with forgiveness. The PSLF program is tax-free forgiveness, so you won't see that added to your tax bill on the federal level.
And the state level.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a question about the RAP plan coming in 2026. Do you mind just recapping that information about that plan?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a new plan under that income-driven repayment umbrella that's being introduced. It's expected to be rolled out next summer, July of 2026. They've started releasing some proposals and some idea of what that program might look like, but it is still in the works and it's not available for enrollment right now. Once that is available for enrollment, you'll be able to see it in Summer's IDR tool as well and select that as an option you want to enroll in. And as a reminder, I think this came up a few times as well. Summer's IDR tool, when you're going through it, is going to calculate what your estimated payment will be on each of the IDR plans available, and then help you enroll in the least expensive option available. You do have the option of all of the plans. So if there's a reason you want to select a different one, we're not going to stop you from doing so. So for some of those that we were talking about being sunset in 2028, if you wanted to avoid that hassle, you could opt to not select one of those. But Summer's tool will give you the estimated payments, and the option to select what you want to enroll in. Seeing some questions about like a lump sum payment, if you could make one payment all at once. You do have to have 10 years of qualifying employment. So if you like just started working in public service, you wouldn't be able to basically like prepay to get forgiveness. You do have to go through those 10 years of employment and monthly payments. Like we said, if you've already been working in public service for a while and you think you're really close to that 120 number, there is that buyback program that could be a good fit. It just really depends on your specific situation. And I'd reference that blog post that Fran shared in the chat to see if that's something that might be a good fit for you.
I see one question on someone who has submitted the PSLF certification and repeatedly and been rejected. And really what Summer is able to do is to kind of do an audit check of the most commonly seen rejection errors. And they're not really errors, but it could be like a formatting thing. It's the way the dates are, 2 digits for the month, 2 digits for the day, 4 digits for the year. It can be maybe like an overlapping employment period, even one day will confuse the system. And so there are a number of reasons why there's nothing wrong with the information, but it's just the way it's submitted. And so having Summer be able to check for all of those errors is really what bumps it up from, what is it, from like 15% to plus 90%. And so for that individual, once they are able to, if they're able to use a Summer platform and submit, they would probably receive feedback on why it hasn't been able to go through.
Alrighty, I think we will take maybe one more question if you each want to answer one more, and then we'll close it off.
Sure. I'm seeing one about being in default status and how that impacts loan forgiveness. So if your loans are in default, that does need to be resolved before you can pursue public service loan forgiveness. You can still possibly receive credit for payments made prior to your loans defaulting, but in order to continue making progress, you first need to resolve that default. Like we said in the presentation, there are two main options available: loan rehabilitation and consolidation. So if that's a situation that you're in, we've also got some like help center articles that can go into what those terms mean and which one might be a good fit for you based on your goals.
And I'm going to pick up the question on special or specialized repayment or forgiveness programs. This individual is a special education teacher. One of the things that the Summers platform does is when it does the intake, it actually screens for more than just public service loan forgiveness. This individual is correct. There are a whole suite of loan forgiveness programs, especially the state level, pro bono lawyers, a lot in the health industry, that might qualify for state forgiveness programs. So that screening does go on, and based on that information, a recommendation will be provided to that account holder, profiling some of those programs. So today we're here for PSLF because we're all eligible for it, but there are a number of you that might be eligible for even a secondary loan forgiveness program.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Anne and Haiti, for helping field those questions, and Fran and Anna as well. So really quickly, what we're going to do is we're just gonna launch a quick overall quality poll. If you are able to vote, please give us a little taste of how we're doing. Lots of changes coming, and we're glad to have Summer helping us out as city employees. Okay, great. Our next question. Did participating in Workwell NYC programs help you feel more confident in your ability to lead a healthy lifestyle? So we're going to launch that as well. There we go. All right, awesome. Leave that open for one more moment. And then our final question poll here is, did participating in this program increase your awareness of Workwell NYC programs and city resources? Awesome. All right, everyone. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our upcoming financial wellness events and programming for Workwell. So October 9th, please join us at noon. We are having, once again, Ask a Money Coach Lunch and Learn with Kara Stevens. She's going to be back talking about new insights, different topics. And then we also have the Boost Your Budget campaign. It's an email campaign. It's starting October 4th. We will be sending out the link so that you can get those emails as well on financial resilience, debt, and investing. Other Workwell events that are upcoming, October 1st, tomorrow, we have Let's Bring the Sugar Down, an 8-week program. Many of you are probably already familiar with. On October 15th, we have a Hispanic Heritage Month leadership panel. At noon, you'll hear from CCHR Commissioner Annabelle Palma, as well as other commissioners of Latino heritage. And then we are also hosting on October 28th at 12 Burnout Strategies webinar to help us handle challenges, adapt to change, and recharge. All right, so to sign us off, here is where you can find Workwell, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. This recording will be posted today. Fear not. If you are interested in other upcoming events or want to revisit those pages, please see the link below and follow us. And again, thank you to our presenters. Thank you, Summer. Thank you, DCWP. We really appreciate you helping us navigate this as city employees. This is one of our big benefits with PSLF, and we are super grateful that we have some guidance on making that happen. All right, everyone. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me. If you registered for this event, you will be hearing from us today with all of your materials. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Have a good lunch.